It began with a mistake. A single miscalculation, one wrong assumption that changed the fate of the world forever. In the year 1492, a sailor from Genoa named Christopher Columbus set out from Spain. He wasn't chasing the idea of a new world. He believed he was heading for Asia, the legendary lands of gold, silk, and spices. But Columbus was wrong. Tragically, magnificently wrong. His maps were off by thousands of miles. His math was flawed, and his understanding of the Earth incomplete. Yet that single error, that wrong turn, would set off a chain of events that reshaped history. Because that mistake led to the first meeting between Europe and the Americas, an accident that changed everything. On August 3rd, 1492, three small ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, drifted out of the Spanish port of Palos de la Frontera. 90 men on board, leaving behind the world they knew, sailing into one no one had ever seen. They weren't sailing toward destiny, they were sailing into legend, guided not by certainty, but by mistake.
For centuries, Europe was obsessed with the riches of the East. Spices from India, silks from China, gems from Indonesia, treasures carried across the fabled Silk Road. But in 1453, that route was cut off. When the Ottoman Empire captured Constantinople, the trade lines between Europe and Asia collapsed. The overland roads were gone. Europe's merchants were desperate. They needed a new way to reach Asia, and fast. That's when a man named Christopher Columbus appeared, a self-taught navigator from Genoa with a stubborn belief that the Earth was round and smaller than most believed. He was convinced that Asia could be reached by sailing west across the Atlantic, not halfway around the globe, just a few thousand miles away. But scholars disagreed. Mathematicians at the University of Salamanca warned him his distances were dangerously wrong. If he sailed west, they said, he'd starve long before reaching land. Still, Columbus refused to give up. He pleaded with Portugal, England, and France. All turned him away. Then he approached Spain's monarchs, Queen Isabella I and King Ferdinand II. It took him 7 years to convince them. In the end, they didn't fund him because they believed his math. They funded him because they hoped to beat their rivals to new trade routes and glory.
On August 3, 1492, 3 ships left Spain: the Santa Maria, Columbus's flagship; the Pinta, captained by Martín Alonso Pinzón; and the Niña, under Vicente Yáñez Pinzón. Their mission: reach the Indies by sailing west. But for the 90 men aboard, the mission was terrifying. The Atlantic Ocean was still a mystery, known in whispers as El Mar Tenebroso, the Sea of Darkness. Sailors believed that sea monsters prowled beneath the waves and that ships could tumble off the edge of the world. Still, they sailed on, past the Canary Islands, into the deep Atlantic. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. Supplies ran low. The men grew restless. They whispered of mutiny. They begged Columbus to turn back. Then, in the early hours of October 12, 1492, the silence was broken. A sailor named Rodrigo de Triana, aboard the Pinta, shouted into the night, "Tierra! Tierra!" At 2 a.m., the crew saw it, the faint silhouette of an island glowing under the moon. After 10 weeks at sea, they had found land.
Columbus waded ashore and planted the Castilian flag into the white sand. He named the island San Salvador, though the people who lived there called it Guanahani. He believed he had reached the islands of Asia. In truth, he had landed in what we now know as the Bahamas. The people who greeted him were the Taíno, kind, generous, and curious. They offered food, gifts, and parrots adorned with bright feathers. Some wore ornaments of gold, and to Columbus, that was all the proof he needed. Asia, he thought, must be close. He sailed onward to Cuba, thinking it was China, and to Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which he believed to be Japan. But beyond those islands stretched something unimaginable, two vast continents unknown to Europe, Africa, or Asia, and he had no idea.
In March 1493, Columbus returned to Spain in triumph. He was hailed as a hero, the man who had found a westward route to Asia. The Spanish crown showered him with titles: Admiral of the Ocean Sea, Governor of the Indies. But the truth began to unravel. As other explorers followed his route, they realized something shocking. The lands Columbus reached weren't part of Asia at all. They were something entirely new. By 1499, an Italian explorer named Amerigo Vespucci sailed along the coast of South America. He studied the stars, the geography, the animals, and concluded these lands were part of a new continent. His letters spread across Europe, describing a new world. Cartographers later used his first name, Amerigo, to label this new land, and that's how America got its name.
What followed Columbus's discovery was not just exploration, it was transformation and tragedy. In 1493, Columbus set sail again, this time with 17 ships and more than 1,200 men. He built the first European settlement in the Americas, on Hispaniola, but peace didn't last. Conflict with the Taino people turned violent. European diseases spread rapidly: smallpox, measles, influenza, wiping out much of the native population. What Columbus had opened was not just a new world, it was a new era of conquest. The discovery unleashed what historians now call the Columbian Exchange, a vast transfer of plants, animals, people, and ideas between the old world and the new. Potatoes, corn, and tomatoes traveled to Europe. Horses, cattle, and wheat arrived in the Americas, but along with them came slavery, warfare, and colonization. One wrong turn had set in motion a wave of change, a tide that could never be reversed.
Columbus died in 1506, still believing he had reached Asia. He never knew he had stumbled upon continents that his maps didn't even show. In his final years, he wrote in his journal, "I have not come across men of intelligence in all these parts." He had no idea that those same lands, the ones he thought belonged to the Indies, would one day become home to powerful new nations, including one called the United States of America.
Columbus didn't discover America on purpose. He wasn't led by fate or prophecy. He was led by a mistake. He was searching for Asia, and instead, he found a world no European had ever seen. It was a wrong turn that rewrote history, and maybe that's the real lesson of discovery. Sometimes humanity's greatest leaps don't come from those who know exactly where they're going, but from those bold or foolish enough to sail into the unknown. How one wrong turn discovered America. 1492, a mistake that changed the world.